Hello wrestling fans, the Wrestling Wizard here, and welcome to another episode of Wizard Watch, or should we say the Bloodline Watch, because after this week's SmackDown, it's safe to say the Bloodline storyline should get its own movie. It's that good. Now, I'm going to address the obvious elephant in the room here too. Obviously, there was no Bray Wyatt on this week's episode of SmackDown. A lot of Bray Wyatt fans on this channel. Yes, a little bit disappointing, but you've got to remember, they're going to pick this storyline up for sure after the Elimination Chamber. And Alexa Bliss will be back and there will be a huge payoff at WrestleMania. I'm confident of it. Now, apparently LA Knight wants to forget about the Bray Wyatt feud and move on. Do you believe him? We'll have to wait and see. Now, before we get into the juicy stuff, as always, it'd be really appreciative if you could like the video, share the video, and even better, subscribe if you're new. And as always, in no particular order, top 5 moments from this week's SmackDown. Now, there's a lot of bloodline in here, I warn you. Now, coming in at moment number 5, I've got to talk about the start of the show. The Paul Heyman promo with the Sami Zayn interruption. Now, Paul Heyman came out in his usual cocky, brash, arrogant persona, saying that he's going to deliver spoilers other than predictions like he always does, and basically said that it's going to be the end of Sami Zayn at the Elimination Chamber. And Sami Zayn came out and stood up for himself in typical babyface fashion. He is so over, it's ridiculous. Honestly, like, could that guy get more over? I think WWE got a little bit of a problem on their hands leading into WrestleMania if Sami Zayn is not in some big match with a big payoff. And it could happen at the Elimination Chamber. I just don't think it will, unfortunately. And he basically called Paul Heyman out, called him creepy for the way he looks at Roman Reigns, which, let's all agree, like, it is a little bit creepy, but still, the facial expressions on Paul Heyman's face, he could just sell anything, couldn't he? Like, literally. And Sami Zayn basically said that in 8 days' time, Roman Reigns' reign is going to come to an end. And that Paul Heyman should watch out because the bloodline is going to fall apart. It's going to decimate. It's going to bit by bit crumble. First Jey, then Jimmy, then Solo. But do you believe him? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. And this was like part 1 of like another part that followed. We saw, of course, a backstage segment with Paul Heyman and Jimmy. And Jimmy was desperately trying to get hold of Jey. He couldn't. And come on, let's face it, we knew Jey was going to turn up. But for one split second, I thought, is it going to be Jimmy and Paul Heyman taking on Braun Strowman and Ricochet in the tag team match for the undisputed tag team titles? But it didn't happen, of course. And I like the way that, again, Paul Heyman, his facial expressions in all of this as well. Like the lines he delivers as well, like calling Sami Zayn a Canadian psychopath. Now, coming in at top moment number 4, I know this isn't groundbreaking, but of course we saw the return of Ronda Rousey. And I like this mainly because I feel like they're actually going to heat up, for once, again, should I say, Shayna Baszler. Now, Natalya came out, cut a promo, a really decent promo, and did you notice the great reaction, the positive reaction from Natalya? She's so underrated on the mic and as a performer and such a veteran, like honing her craft really to this day. And called Shayna Baszler out as a knockoff Ronda Rousey. Ouch. But this was all part of a setup as Shayna came down to the ring. Ronda returned and they beat the living daylights out of Natalya. Shotzi tried to help out, didn't really work. And of course, this is all going to be a setup for Shotzi and Natalya to take on Ronda and Shayna. Are we getting tag team vibes here from Shayna and Ronda Rousey? I hope so. And then they break up and then they have a match. I'd love to see a matchup between the two of them at, say, SummerSlam. Now, coming in at moment number 3, the return of Jey Uso. He didn't neglect his brother Jimmy. They got the victory against Braun Strowman and Ricochet in what was a great tag match with a great ending. I absolutely loved it. But this wasn't all that followed. We got another backstage segment where we saw Sami Zayn confront Jey Uso and acknowledge Jey Uso. And I love the fact that Jey Uso's like looking around like, is there a camera on me? When there's a camera right in front of you. If Roman Reigns is watching this, he isn't going to be happy. And we found out that he was later on. And I thought this is really cool. He gave the reluctant sort of fist pump to Sami Zayn. And of course the questions are still there. You know, is he with the bloodline still? Is he truly out like he said on social media? Or is this just the start of something bigger? And then this just continued and continued. We got a backstage segment with Jimmy and Jey. And of course, Jimmy didn't realise that Paul Heyman was creepily lurking behind a post listening to the fact that Jey couldn't give an answer. He didn't know whether he was in or out, and then Jimmy flat out lied to Paul Heyman by saying that basically Jey didn't say anything, and it gets a bit confusing between Jimmy and Jey, doesn't it? Of course, Paul Heyman knew he was lying because he could hear the conversation. He was watching the conversation creepily behind a post. So I thought that was really cool, and that paid off later on in the show as well, which we'll get on to in a moment. Now, coming in at the next moment number 2. Again, this wasn't a groundbreaking moment, but I'm just going to give Madcap Moss a little bit of love. Don't you feel like he's the sort of superstar you start with in WWE 2K? Literally the superstar with the generic look, the generic theme, but then you build him up and over time he becomes a superstar. And I feel like Madcap Moss has got everything. He's got the look, he's got the charisma, he can talk. I like the comedic side to him as well. And Emma's helped him out with presenting him a little bit better. He's got a new attire. Like, he actually won the matchup against some big stars along the way in the Fatal 4-Way qualification match for the IC title. So he's now won, and he's got a match against Gunther. Now, is he going to beat Gunther for the title next week on SmackDown? No, I don't think so. I'd pretty almost 100% say no. But it's making him look a bigger deal. Of course, the dynamic between Cross and Rey Mysterio is all cool as well, so I'm sure that's going to progress. But you got to feel that Rey Mysterio's WrestleMania plans are going to involve Dom at some point. But nevertheless, good to see Madcap Moss getting a bit of spotlight. He truly deserves it. Now, finally coming in at basically the grand finale of this week's SmackDown with the Bloodline storyline. It was short, it was sharp, it was sweet, but Paul Heyman sells this like an absolute superstar. His facial expressions, he comes in all fake to Jimmy, and he's basically like, look, you know, I think we've got this sorted, me and Roman at the Elimination Chamber. You stay home. We don't need you and Jey. Roman can get the job done himself, essentially. Now, clever from WWE, because we know the real reasons why the Usos, or specifically Jimmy, is not going to be in Canada. DUI charges, you know the rest. So he can't be there. So it's a great way of writing at least one half of the Usos out of the storyline. That doesn't mean that Jey can't be there. Well, I'm pretty confident that Jey can be there. Correct me if I'm wrong here. It's Jimmy with the charges, right? But it was genius because we know Paul Heyman heard Jimmy talking to Jey. We know Jimmy's lying to Paul. And also we know that Roman Reigns has been watching the entire show because basically Paul Heyman made it very clear that they should sit back and watch TV because you can see things on TV you can't see when you're there live. I.e. Roman Reigns was watching the whole damn show and he knows everything and hell's going to break loose. Now, heading into the Elimination Chamber, so many things can happen. Now, I've got a predictions video for the whole show coming out tomorrow. But you got to remember, Solo Sikoa can be there. Jey potentially. Kevin Owens is going to get involved. It's in Montreal, Canada, for crying out loud. Like, that's literally like, could it get any more homeland for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens? Now, other noteworthy mentions, Lacey Evans won a squash match. No big deal there. Sort of heating her up nicely. Liv and Raquel defeated Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. I'm kind of down for that. And the Banger Bros, sorry, can't say that. It's a bit X-rated. The Bangers now, Sheamus and Drew McIntyre defeated Hit Row. But at the end, there was this kind of threat really from the Viking Raiders with Valhalla, of course, in the background there. Overall, it was a pretty decent show. I'm going to give it a C. It wasn't groundbreaking, but the whole Bloodline dynamic, how can you not love it? Was a little bit disappointed Bray wasn't on the show. But overall, not too bad, and super excited for Money in the Bank, by the way. Let me know in the comment section if you're going to Money in the Bank in England at the O2 Arena in July, and whether you're going to be at SmackDown, because that's now being confirmed the night before. It'd be great to meet some of you on the day as well. I am certainly going to be going for 100% certainty. Just got to get the tickets sorted. Thank you so much for watching. As always, be really appreciative if you could like the video, share the video, and even better, subscribe if you're new. And as always, get down in the comment section and share your thoughts and opinions. And we'll catch you in the next one.